classes is both. It does have discipline, especially in view of the fact, and do bear this in mind, most Zen monks today are not really in the monastery of their own volition, and have not been for hundreds of years. They've been there because it was a family tradition. If you see you have a son, and you're a priest, and you have a son, well, in all traditional cultures, in India, in China, and so on, there's a tendency for the son to carry on his father's business. So if you're the son of a priest, it's sort of expected that you'll be one too. So off to the monastery with it. It's the same in England in the 18th century, where the oldest son of the family went into the army, the second son into the law, I forget which order it was, and the third son anyway went into the ministry. Well, that means a whole lot of people were in theological school and have the slightest interest in religion. Not real interest. And so they have to be taught to think. So St. Ignatius, for example, made out methods of meditation. A, B, C, D, proximate consideration, remote consideration, the meditation itself, the resolution at the end, and so on. This is simply designed to teach people how to think who never thought, and weren't interested in thinking. So in much the same way, these things have occurred in the Far East. And a great deal of it is therefore designed to discipline people who have no real motivation for the discipline in question, the study in question. So now, one of the great features of Zen training is to develop within yourself what is called a great doubt. And the koan system is used to develop a great doubt. Here you are, you're asked to hear the sound of one hand. And, if you're an American and you come over to Japan to study Zen, you've gone to a lot of trouble. You obviously have some sincere motivation. And you just can't get the answer to that one hand thing. And it becomes more and more a matter of life and death because it seems terribly important to find this out. So you have a great doubt. That is to say, you have an urgent spirit of inquiry. And with you can't get it, and you can't get it, and you can't get it, the teacher keeps saying, now, come on, let's go. Let's be ready to give your life for this thing. But you see, if you go into a Zen monastery, and you don't have that spirit of inquiry that led you across the ocean at a great deal of expense, you were just someone who was brought up, one of the boys in the neighborhood, and you went into the monastery. But as the teacher said, the trouble with you is you don't have a great doubt. Well, he doesn't have a great doubt, he's not interested. So he learns to cultivate a great doubt. See, it's like trying to, if I may put it in Western or Christian terminology, you don't love God. You've never seen him, you don't know anything about God. Why would you love God? Somebody comes along and says, you've got to love God, it's terribly important, it's the first commandment. Oh, gee, I've got to love God. So what do? We sit down and say, dear God, I love you, dear God, I love you, dear God, I love you, dear God, I love you. And I've got to get the feeling going. And then the preacher can tell all sorts of stories, and move you, terrify you with the fear of hell if you don't love God. Or I should say, how beautiful Jesus was. That was the revelation of God. And you ought to love that. And you ought to love your mother. So you see, you get this thing. Work on that great doubt. But you see, the trouble is you can't get a great doubt to order. You can't tell anybody anything to order. If you could, listen, do you know what's happening? Suppose you were at music school. What are they trying to do in music school? They're trying to find methods for teaching creative musicianship. Whether you're a player or whether you're a composer or whatever. They want to find out how they can make every student a genius. Actually, all schools are run to the advantage of the staff. And it's a job. You've got to put people through there. It's a way of keeping them off the labor market. if you're a very sincere teacher, you want to find out how to impart that subtle thing to the students. So there are books galore on methods, special methods for getting that creative ability across. Professor so-and-so's method, Dr. so-and-so's method, etc., playing the piano and so on. Make it easy, but make it a genius. Now, if such a method existed, you know what would happen? These geniuses would all be boring, because we would know how they do it. And the whole fascination of an art and of a great performance is you don't know how it's done. There must be something about it that is fundamentally astonishing. You could say, again, putting it into Western terms, if God could explain how he created the universe, he wouldn't be God. And you know how in the book of Genesis, it's told so straightforwardly that when the Lord first of all creates the things, then looks at them afterwards and sees that they're good. And you know, I love the passage where suddenly he creates great whales. You know, suddenly great whales, whoops, like that. And he looks at these things and says, my, that's great, do it again. And so in this way, there's a Zen poem which says, you may want to ask where the flowers come from, but even the god of spring doesn't know. And another says, planting flowers to which the butterflies come. Bodhidharma says, I don't know. So there is this curious thing in all what I would call vital knowledge, living knowledge, that it's always a mystery to itself. Life is a mystery to itself. For the same reason, you see, there's a Zen poem which says, it is like a sword that cuts but does not cut itself, like an eye that sees but does not see itself.
The river cannot destroy itself.
So in this way, what there is fundamentally, basic reality, knows itself and doesn't know itself. If it did know itself thoroughly, it would stop. Like playing games. If you know the outcome of a game for sure, there's no point playing it. So, you know, when chess players sit down and it becomes apparent, although there are still many pieces on the board, that one of them is going to mate in 3 moves, they abandon the game because they know the outcome. If you knew the future perfectly, if you knew everything you're going to do, right up to the day of your death, you'd say, let's check out on this game. Let's commit suicide and start another life. Because there's no point living through what is known completely. Of course, you can't very well live through what is unknown completely. There must be some light. But total light annihilates itself. So then, you see, there is no prescription and no infallible technique for teaching anybody music, although there are music schools. And there is likewise no infallible technique for teaching anybody Zen, although indeed there are Zen schools. And sometimes the teacher, who has many years of experience, begins to get disillusioned. What's the point of all these schools? What's the point of teaching music? You can't teach music. You can only pass it on from one person to another by osmosis. Sure, there's a technique. You can learn how to read. You can learn how to put your fingers on the
Diviners and soothsayers.
The real thing, what to do
Gather
with that
your
technique,
hordes.
what to say with it, you can't teach that. So one assumes then that a person who is sufficiently motivated, who is fond of music, will learn the technique because he wants to get so where he can handle the instruments. And you suppose likewise that a person who is really interested in self-knowledge, after all Zen is only a certain way of self-knowledge, will master certain techniques because he's interested. But you see, all schools
Massive
and all
zero.
systems begin to make techniques an end in themselves because technique is the only thing you can teach. You can't teach the thing. Now, you see, we get scared when we think of that. We say, you mean to say I might be that person who gets hung up in this, and all I'm going to get out of this school is technique? Somehow I might be that dumb bunny who just doesn't get the thing.
It doesn't
That's
get
an
it.
awful thought, isn't it?
It doesn't get
But that's
it.
drilled into us from childhood.
Where is it?
For example, it comes out of toilet training. I remember all the medical and nursing authorities when I was a small boy, had tremendous constipation phobia. And they believed that you could suffer from poisoning, from retaining things too long. And so they were always agitating, questioning every day as to whether you had been. So you built up, conversely, a terror that you might not be able to.
Shit, heads up. At the bottom.
And this, in its turn, built up tensions that were actually constipating. So everybody was constantly being filled with cascara sagrada, California syrup of figs, castor oil, bombshells of every description, which upset the natural functioning.
I need my enema.
So, in the same way, you might think, I'm going to practice meditation or something and study Zen, but will I be the poor fool who never gets the point? You could put it in Christian terms and say, I will be as good as I can be, but perhaps I will be the one who God will never give any real grace to, because I haven't been picked out. And will I get this grace? There's no way, you see, that you can wangle grace. You can't compel the Lord to give it. The same way you can't compel Satori to happen. So you think maybe it won't happen to me.
You cannot petition the Lord with prayer?
That's possible. So what do you do about that? Well, the teachers have all sorts of things to say about what to do about it. They say, well, now look, just forget about it. It doesn't matter if you don't get it. Not getting it is getting it, you see. We use this paradox all the time. Not to have it, really to accept that you don't have it. That's getting it. That's the real point, see? But that's a gimmick. See, I'm going to try as hard as I can not to try to get it. See? But you're really playing a game, see? This is I've at last got the infallible method. There must be an infallible method, because if there isn't a method, we're lost. We're up the creek. Why? We're out of control. But you see, when you find out there isn't a method, there isn't a positive method, and there isn't a negative method, what are you going to do? You can't do something, you can't do nothing. You can't let go of the thing, because after all you got curious about it. And this is what's called having swallowed a ball of hot water. You can't gulp it down and you can't spit it out. And then there's a trap to get you into that state. You have to be very careful how you get mixed up with the thing. Because, you may end up in a padded cell blabbering. That is the quandary, and that's why ever so many opposite things can be said about Zen. That's why on the one hand it can be said rightly that it's a strong discipline, while on the other hand it can be said rightly that it's not a discipline at all. It isn't that it's just a mixture of things. Zen isn't sort of partly the discipline and partly spontaneity. Whatever is said about it can be said of all of it. And therefore it seems to be paradoxical.
So on the hermit today.
And one always can get into difficulty by neglecting some side of it and saying, well, that doesn't matter. Sometimes it's true that it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's not true. It may be just the thing that you need. the side you say that doesn't matter. So there's no way, what I'm trying to say is, there's no way of putting your finger on something. There's no way of nailing it down, and that's the whole point.
Adjustment.
Because you see, fundamentally, Zen makes you do...
Fell on the Empress.
Only it makes you do it.
Cool.
Let's suppose you're sitting in your padded cell, and you suddenly found out this little game. See, you've got your one hand clasped by the other, and your thumb sticking out here at the top. You look at that thumb and say, ooh, look at that, oops, and try to catch it. No? No?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Where is
No?
it?
No? Come on, let's get it, come on, let's get it, come on.
Come here.
Get that thing, get that, see? Whew, that's what we're doing.
I see you, see me, see
Here's
me.
me, and here's knowing about me. No, I want to kind and control myself, you see. I want to get hold of that thing that's me. Because when I get hold of it, I can control it. Then I'm going to be all right to get hold of it. And so we're doing that. And as a result, we have astounding illusions. Now we have the illusion, because it's drilled into us through acculturation, that each one of us is a separate ego, separate center of awareness, little living pulp of some kind, that lives in a strange world. Scares the hell out of us. What makes you think this, you see? How did you ever come to imagine that you are somehow disconnected, out there, surrounded by this world in which you're a stranger? It's really obvious that isn't so. Only it's not obvious to most people. It's really obvious that you, the real you, deep in, is this thing that is reality. And that you are having a profoundly interesting game, pretending you're not.
Where is he?
And you are going through all kinds of amazing mazes to play this game. And mostly running in terror from your own shadow, jumping at the sound of your own heartbeat, having goose pimples rise on your back at the sound of your own footsteps. Wow. And you are always exploring into this world and finding it gets stranger and stranger as you look out into the infinitudes of space where you thought everything was pretty rational. You know, there were these other galaxies that were millions of light years away. You thought, well, there's just a lot of galaxies out there. Suddenly something called a quasar turns up. Nobody understands what a quasar is. They defy all the things that we thought we knew. So it gets stranger and stranger. And the more you probe inwardly, you know, you could lift the skin off your own stomach and take a look inside. What a weird world that is. You can cover that up with anything. I feel like I feel when I see spiders or ants or something. You get the shivers and the creeps. But you see, what you're getting the creeps at is yourself in an unfamiliar aspect. The unknown side. Because at last comes recognition. When you, the most far out thing, the thing that seems the most totally other, and you say, why? And what a relief. But at the same time,
Not today.
what fun to begin all over again.
No? No? Lazy. Lazy to do that one.
take your ulcerative colitis treatment in a different direction.
You gotta know, I'm feeling love, made it go. Don't ever love another one, another you. It's gotta be love. I said it. You gotta know, I'm feeling love. You gotta know, I'm feeling love. You gotta know, I'm feeling love. Made it go. I'll never love another one, another you. It's gotta be love. I said it. I might as well be in my garden. I said, I sit on the years of dripping rose. You made a wine for me. I know the soul will be my warden. Of anything there that's made of gold. A physical kiss is nothing without it. And you close your eyes to see what it's done. The body that lies is built up on looking. It's all that remains before it's begun. You gotta know, I'm feeling love. Made it go. I'll never love another one, another you. It's gotta be love. I said it. You gotta know, I'm feeling love. Made it go. I'll never love another one, another you. It's gotta be love. I said it. A heart will swell before it's hardened. Look at the hair, it can make you old. Another hole in my soul.